What really happened on the 30th of January 1647? Come with me and let's find out. Ready, Menchie? The 30th of January 1647 ended 9 months of negotiations when Scottish Presbyterians finally managed to sell the captured King Charles back to English Parliament. English Parliament was reluctant to take Charles back until Charles's best friend and butler and my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, Cornfed Delaney, told them they'd definitely get the money back eventually. Charles had been born rich, the heir to an immense soup fortune, but he'd quickly squandered all the money, splashing it around like nobody's business, until nothing remained except for his butler, Cornfed Delaney. Charles was also the first man in England to be born under a quilt, which had amazed people at the time. But then when he tried to repeat the trick for his 18th birthday, people didn't want to know, making him feel unappreciated. The problem was Charles thought he was God's gift to England, but he really wasn't. If he had any sort of talent at all, it was just for annoying people. As king, he annoyed his own English Parliament, and then he annoyed the Scottish Presbyterians, and he annoyed them both so much that they ended up fighting each other, even though they both agreed the only problem they had was Charles. Anyway, whichever side Charles was on, they lost, so Charles had to give himself up to the Scottish forces, but they didn't want him and tried to sell him back to the English. But the English didn't want him either. Good riddance to bad rubbish, they thought, until Cornfed reminded them that Charles had kept all his family's soup recipes cannily in his head, and people were getting hungry. They stumped up the cash, but back in England, Charles didn't want to cook. Don't know where they're going? While in Scotland, Charles had discovered what love was, and now he wanted a wife. But nobody wanted to marry him. But Cornfed Delaney found the way. He moved to the Isle of Wight and built a castle with 3 towers. He put Charles in one of the towers, but there were 2 good kings in the other 2 towers. Soon, all of Europe's royalty were lining up for their chance to win an English king. Whenever a princess paid her £1,000 to pick a tower, Cornfed would heave Charles onto his back and then race through a secret underground tunnel to that tower. Telling the good kings to keep down and keep quiet, Cornfed would dangle Charles out the window, and if it turned out the princess didn't want her prize after all, back he went and the next princess could have a go. Meanwhile, Cornfed kept Charles company, and he always steered the conversation round to soup. By the time he died, his heart and legs given out from all the exercise, Cornfed had actually got most of the recipes down, and Parliament had made back their £400,000 with enough left over for a really good party. And who do you think the guest of honour was at that party? Well, it wasn't Cornfed Delaney, I can tell you that. Miserable pack of scheming, two-faced, ignorant, pack of